As you can tell from the logo at the beginning, my name is Bill Knowlton. On the ballot, it's William Knowlton. And I'm a candidate to be the district attorney for the 97th Judicial District, which, as you know, is Montague, Archer, and Clay counties. The Republican primary is this coming March, and I need and want your support. This will be the first of a few videos that we're going to produce. And today we're in the courthouse, in a courtroom in Clay County. We're only doing it here because this one was available. The other courthouses, we're lucky and fortunate that Montague and Archer are equally beautiful. But we're in the courtroom because this first session is to talk about trials and some other related issues that are important to this campaign and what's motivated me to run, which means if I'm lucky and I win and you support me, I will be walking away from a very successful law practice. So let's imagine for a moment that we're in Archer County. All the jury boxes look somewhat the same. They all have railings in front of them. We're going to use this banister as a timeline. And let's go back to January 2017 when our current district attorney took office. We look at January, jump to June, jump to December, and lo and behold, we're to January 1st, 2018. Now, if I wanted you to think about 12 people sitting in this jury box, I would have stopped and told you. But I didn't, because there were none. There were no criminal prosecution jury trials in Archer County in 2017. So let's look at 2018. First quarter, second quarter, end of June, October, right up to January 1st of 2019. You notice again, I didn't ask you to imagine 12 people sitting there. It's because it did not happen. Once again, in 2018, there were no criminal prosecutions and jury trials in Archer County. None in 17 and none in 18. So let's look at 19, January. You know what? I'm not going to waste your time. You're going to get the same answer. In 2017, 2018, and 2019, there was not one, there were no criminal prosecutions and jury trial for all of Archer County. That doesn't mean there weren't crimes committed there. That would be a nice, perfect, wonderful world, but it's not what we live in. And I have another statistic for you about Archer County that's alarming, but I'm going to save that till I finish with the trial session. So let's jump right over here to Clay County, which is where we are today. January 17, first quarter, middle of the year, October, December 2017. No juries were sat in this box for a criminal prosecution because there were none. Let's look at 18, January, July. Whoops, I need to tell you. Imagine 12 people sitting here one time in 2018. But you need to understand that that was not for an offense committed in Clay County. That was a transfer of venue, the location for the trial, from a different place. So we're go through 218 with nobody that was charged with a crime to protect the citizens and residents of Clay County having a trial here in this courtroom. 17, 18, none. We go to 19, and I'll tell you right now, there were 2 attempts. You say, Bill, what do you mean by an attempt? Well, one jury got seated here around the middle of the year. It was a serious trial. It ended up being a hung jury. As most of you know, that means the jury could not come to a conclusion as to whether or not the defendant was guilty or innocent after the state presented its case. So that's a mistrial. And part of a future video will be what happened to that case. And then come to the end of the year, there was a second attempt to try a case here, but nobody sat in this jury box. It's because during jury selection, there's what's called a voir dire, where questions are asked and the case is summarized by the state and then the defense counsel. And because those are dozens of potential jurors, they sit in the benches. But by the time that voir dire and selection was over, there were jurors disqualified and they could not get 12 to hear the case. I'm not going to comment on that case. It's still pending. That is unfair to the state and it is unfair to the defendant. I will tell you that I would have done a few things differently, and that's not hindsight, it's from an understanding of the process. So let's jump over to Montague County. We all know that that's over 50% of the district. How many trials were occurring over there when there were none happening in Archer County for 3 years, none in Clay County for 2 years, and finally a couple of them at least attempted trials in Clay? In September 2018, the Bowie News reported that the district attorney appeared before the Commissioner's Court on a budget issue, and that will be discussed in a future video also. But one of the commissioners asked her, how many trials have you commenced, or how many have you prosecuted, which would have been her 20th or 21st month in office? And her answer was 4. I'll take her at her word, so we'll move forward from there. In October of 2018 and December of 18, there were 2 more trials in Montague County. The one in December of 18 is the one which the district attorney is extremely proud and has emphasized a number of times on television and in her announcement that she is running for re-election. I am glad that they saw it and had a conviction. Nobody is sitting here rooting for convictions any more than myself, unless it's the law enforcement officers that have worked those cases and the victims of those crimes. But you need to understand that that case that she has emphasized is so important. She hired a Wichita County attorney, an excellent attorney, to come to Montague and lead that trial and direct that trial. And I don't know why, unless she was not confident in her own skills or those of her staff to prosecute that individual. As I said, the trial turned out well, but it was not a result of any expertise in the existing office. So let's turn to 2019 in Montague. I mean, they have hundreds of cases pending, arrests and indictments, and they've already had, as we mentioned, 6 trials by her own statement and the numbers in the first 2 years. So what happens? Let's use this rail as a timeline again. January, February, March 2019, April, May, June, July 2019, August, September, October 2019. That jury box stayed empty for those 10 months for criminal prosecutions. There were none. Sometime in October, she announced she was going to try a case in November. One of the speculations was it might be a sexual assault case that had a hung jury 2 years before. But it wasn't. She chose to prosecute a felon in possession of a weapon. Now, don't misunderstand me. Nobody here is a fan of a criminal having a gun in his possession. He's already been to the penitentiary once, and he comes back and he has a weapon. But you don't have to show it's an AR or a massive shotgun or a .22. It's any weapon. So proof of that case is fundamental. He was in the penitentiary, and now he had a gun when he got arrested. What about the hundreds of violent crimes that had victims? Sexual assaults, assaults, injuries to children, and a substantial amount, dozens and dozens of drug possessions of large quantities and some for drug sales. None of those were tried in Montague County in 2019. And it wasn't because she was trying a case in Archer County. There weren't any. She tried 2 cases in Clay, so we had 3 trials for the entire year from the current district attorney's office. So in recap, and I'm sorry if I'm overemphasizing this, but it's startling. 3 years and no trials in Archer County. 3 years and 2 trial attempts in Clay County, neither one of which resulted in a conviction. And 6 trials in Montague, the 7th occurring at the end of 2019. And that is far fewer than any previous district attorney. Let's talk about a couple of other issues related to that. And I promised you folks in Archer County that I would come back to this, but it's equally true of the other counties, but Archer, since it is a smaller community, I was able to track the numbers very accurately quicker. we'll have these numbers for Clay and Montague for a future video. But you should be startled and alarmed that in Archer County, their sheriff, through great efforts, through seeing crimes and investigating crimes, has made over 100 felony arrests, some dating back well over 2 years, 2.5 years, that have not even been prosecuted or taken to a grand jury for an indictment yet. That means those 100 potential felons, the suspects, are in the community, on bail, or on the 90th day after they're arrested, if it's not presented to a grand jury, they have to be let loose. That is a frightening statistic, and it explains why we not only have hundreds of indictments pending in the 3 counties, but we also have hundreds more which charges have not yet even been filed. As I told you in the beginning, my name is Bill Knowlton. If you look at the ballot, it'll be William. I'll be second on the ballot in Montague and Archer, and first in Clay County ballot. It'll be under the Republican primary in March for the district attorney for the 97th Judicial District. I need and want your support, and I hope after the campaign stops, the ability to speak directly with you and watching this video and the future videos that I can count on and would appreciate very much your support and your vote. God bless all of you.